We're sneaking up on it. The holiday season is right around the corner, and we are in full swing. InGoal Radio, presented by The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. We have a fantastic show coming for you today. All kinds of angles in the world of goaltending, including the great one, the big cat. Andrei Vasilevskiy will stop by with a couple of great takes on save percentages being down as we say hello to the co-founder of InGoal magazine. It's Kevin Woodley. David Hutchison is on assignment, but he's going to be released and he's going to be with us in just a little bit. So we're looking forward to catching up with him. But we got all kinds of things going on over at the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, and InGoal Mag, buddy.
Yeah, no, hey, it's Christmas time. And by the time, given how close we already are to Christmas, it might be a little late if you haven't got your gifts purchased. But
we're always looking for one more thing.
Exactly. And for the goalies in your life, we have that one more thing, including from our friends at the Hockey Shop, source for sports. And you're probably thinking, hold on. It's way too late for me to get something shipped from the Hockey Shop, source for sports, wrapped and under the tree. Well, how about we stuff the stocking with something that can allow the goalie in your life to stuff their gear bag after Christmas? And of course, I'm talking about gift cards from the Hockey Shop on thehockeyshop.com. All kinds of different numbers you can attach to it, whether it's a small gift or a big gift. You can get a gift card big enough to get a new set of gear. They've got it. You can't maybe get a new set of gear.
Is that like one of those big checks that they use for presentations?
I think if you buy a big enough one, we can probably get Cam to deliver a giant check. I could picture him holding a giant check and knocking on your front door sometime in early January.
That would be really cool. Imagine unwrapping that.
Yeah.
Gear.
There you go. There you go. So and the best part, of course, is that the goalie in your life gets to choose what they want, right? Because let's face it, it's a pretty unique, individualized position. So whether you need help from the staff at the Hockey Shop, source of sorts, picking out the right stuff, they've got the crew to do that. Or if you just want to let your goalie pick for himself, check it out. Hockeyshop.com, gift cards, a great idea for stuffing the stocking. And I got to say, Darren, we've got a few more great ideas going up at InGoal, sort of our last minute gift guide. Almost everything on it is available digitally, and I got to start with an InGoal premium subscription. Folks, I know this is a little bit of back padding here at the InGoal Radio podcast, but there is no better way to get better at playing the position than to read from advice from some of the best. Whether it's our pro reads, our pro drills, all the things that we bring to you weekly, you can get an InGoal gift subscription, have it delivered, and under the tree, we'll even give you something you can print out featuring your goalie gift need person with their favorite goalie on it. So that was really good English by me there. Hey, Darren, I was like, goalie, you get the idea, folks. We'll give you a gift card.
It was goalie speak, buddy.
Yeah, from somebody who's been hit in the head too many times by pucks. But yeah, we've got your goalie gift subscriptions. If the goalie in your life doesn't already have a subscription to InGoal, you can get it. And like I said, we've got little gift cards that you can give to them featuring their favorite goaltenders. Also, folks, if you purchased a goalie gift subscription in the past, remember, of course, those are only 1-year subscriptions. They're not the automatic renewals, and you will need to buy it again for the goalie in your life. So make sure you check it out at InGoalMag.com.
The goalie accessory page over at the Hockey Shop, source for sports. That's my go-to. If you're not going down the big ticket item, there's tons of options there that you can slide in on. Tape, like we all love tape. We need it every game. So go something as simple as that. And when it comes to InGoal, there's no better resource on the goaltending world map than InGoal Radio or InGoal Mag.
And like I said, we'll have the article up shortly. That'll have a lot of links to a lot of our partners, because that's the beauty. A lot of the companies that you hear us talk about regular here on the InGoal Radio podcast, like Visual Edge and NHL Sense Arena, all of their products are available digitally. So we've got some options there, as well as some from some other goalie companies that we worked with in the past, to make sure that you can get something last minute under the tree in the stocking for the goalie in your life.
Just when we thought after the Four Nations rosters were unveiled, we might not have a lot to nibble on here on the podcast. Igor Shesterkin signs the record-setting contract with the New York Rangers. So what was your reaction to the number? Did it come in and around where you expected?
Mostly in the sense that that's where the reporting was, that's what it was going to take. And listen, I know we've seen a whole bunch of goalies sign for 8.25, like that became the new benchmark. But it was pretty clear from all the conversations and all the reporting that Igor was looking to set a new benchmark, that it would be in that 11 million plus range. But, the argument being best player on the team, paid like it. And frankly, given how consistently great he has been, and I know things are not going well for the Rangers right now, but believe me, when I look at the numbers at Clearsight, it is not because of the goaltenders. If you want that level of consistent excellence with the upside of, Hart Trophy candidate 1 year, consistent sort of in that Vezina conversation, if not always a finalist, there are only a couple of guys that are as consistent as Igor Shesterkin. I mean, other than Connor Hellebuck, it's a pretty short list. There's the list of elite goalies is a little longer, but Shesterkin's fully worth the money, and I'm more curious now to see where everything else goes in the coming years with goalie contracts, because a lot of those other guys that got an 8.25, they were looking at RFA status, and Igor could have walked as a UFA, and I think there are a lot of teams that would have welcomed that level of goaltending into the fold and paid a lot for it.
We'd heard 12. Did you ever think that as an AAV was legitimate?
I mean, we may be looking at that as an average within 5 years, the way the cap could go up, right? Like at the end of the day, it's all percentage of cap, and we see these projections on revenue that could have it soar like even more than the current projections and quite quickly. So I hesitate to say we won't get there, because I wouldn't be surprised if we're there in 5 or 6 years.
I don't think anybody's being Igor Shesterkin. We'll save that one for later on and the next crop of free agents that are coming up in the next couple of years. And if anybody's even going to get close to 10 for an AAV, we'll peruse that. Layers, David Hutchison, who slides in. How was your assignment? You don't have to tell us what it was. It might be secret. It might be Christmassy. You might be shopping for us, but how was it?
It was excellent. I don't think there's a whole lot of details to share right here, but yeah, sorry for being late, boys. Thanks for running with the ball.
What was your reaction to Shesterkin?
I guess for me, it was just a little bit of surprise that it was done mid-season, and maybe I haven't been keeping up on the news and the individual well enough to know that. But so many people want to put it off and look after those sort of details in the summer and not take away from their own game. But maybe there was a desire on his part just to put it to bed so he can get on and play.
Pending UFA probably changes everything,
and the way that they were going might put a little more urgency to just put it aside and concentrate on winning some hockey.
Yeah.
Hasn't helped.
No, true. It comes at a time when goaltenders are fighting it a little bit. Save percentages are down across the board. And we're looking at legendary numbers when it comes to that SVPG column. Andrei Vasilevskiy had some interesting things to say to NHL.com's Kevin Woodley earlier this week.
Well, and InGoal Magazine's Kevin Woodley, because we're going to run the audio portion of some of that here. I think first the caveat, and that is that absolutely goal scoring is up because players have never been better. Like, the league is loaded with skilled, young, fast players. We've seen the complete erosion. Well, maybe not complete, because we've started to see some teams focus on size of the back end, but largely the erosion of the defensive defenseman. I'll never forget Braden Holtby telling me and others that Carl Alzner was his favorite defenseman to play behind as an NHL goaltender, and the next year Carl Alzner was out of the league. Like, we have seen that change so fast. So you've got all this skill focus at all positions, and you've got teams that have figured out how to score goals, that, funneling pucks from the point without any net front presence, that a lot of the ways that teams used to just waste shots is being replaced by high danger chances, cross ice passes, slot line, low high bumper plays, like all these things that are specifically designed to make a goaltender's life miserable. Goalies around the league will tell you the game has never been harder. But as Andrei Vasilevskiy points out in this interview, with that has come a decrease in the amount of low danger shots that NHL goalies face. And talking to Clearsight Analytics, the number backs it up. some of the lowest danger chances over the last 6 years are down 20 to 27%. And so you add that up. I mean, inherently, if we have a near, 25% on average reduction in the shots that goalies stop 95 to 99% of the time, and we have an increase in scoring the number of chances that go in 20 to 40% of the time, save percentage is going to come down. It was one of the first things that Vasilevskiy mentioned when I asked him why it was happening.
You know what, guys, I feel like guys don't waste shots anymore. Back when I came to the league, it used to be at least 30 plus, 35 plus shots each game. Just, it's kind of was almost every night you felt good about your game. You were pretty, you were into it all the time. And as I said, guys nowadays don't waste shots. It's all
always look for quality.
It's all about the quality nowadays, guys. They're all looking for that perfect play, perfect pass, perfect shot. And now instead of even again when I came to the league once again, I mean 10 years. So it's lots of players, goalies were playing on top of the crease, because for the most part guys were skating into the zone and shoot right away and go from there. But nowadays, again, guys, they're skating in the zone and they're looking for a pass. They're looking for that tick-toe play, look at backdoor tip or something. So again,
do you view backed off like depth?
Yeah. Now it's more about blue paint game. I feel again, it's my personal opinion. Yeah, I feel like. It's really hard to play really aggressive nowadays in the NHL, so that's why even me, I played really aggressive when I just came, but over the last a year and a half, maybe I'm trying to kind of manage my distance, I guess.
Yeah. When you said people aren't wasting shots, do you think that's why save percentage is down? Everybody says, save percentage is down, but the goalies have never been better.
For sure. I mean, all the goalies are obviously still great goalies. I mean, they're playing in the NHL. You're here for a reason. You can be a bad goalie if you play here. And I feel, because guys don't waste shots. In my opinion, all those young players, they're super skilled. They know that they don't want to, because once you shoot a net with no traffic or no,
it's like a turnover.
No, exactly. It's like so. Okay, goalie will catch it, and then what? Okay, so we saw the play is dead. So nobody will will pat you in the back for that. So. That's in my opinion.
No, I think you're right. I think I've seen other people talk about that. So what makes that harder then? A, the save percentage comes down, and everybody talks about, but they don't understand why. But B, you're not as busy. You don't get a lot of those shots the ones that you feel and help you get into a game.
Exactly.
How hard is that as a goalie sometimes?
Yeah, I mean you just standing in the blue paint and waiting for something to happen, I guess, and you have lots of energy and you have lots of thoughts, and that's not a perfect scenario. When you don't have shots, you thinking about how you're gonna play instead of playing the game. It's because you have no shots. So, but when you have a lot of shots, that you don't think, you just play. So obviously it makes it much more easier. Again, even me, I remember after each period, during the intermission, I'm in the locker room, all sweaty, just like now, and just sipping water, can't catch my breath, and I feel good. But now sometimes between the periods, I come to the locker room and I'm cold, I dry, and I'm I feel like I'm still didn't even play the game. Even one period. So
the challenges become more mental than physical.
Exactly. Yeah, it's again, it's something to work on for all of us. And as you said, mental challenge, and use more. Again, a little different approach to today's game,
right.
I guess. But again, that's what makes it really fun to play this game. you finding all the time. You're trying to find a new ways that will help you to improve your game and help your team to win games. So that's why we play the game. So
I think my favorite part of goaltending is the fact that there's not just like you said, like for Helly but there's no one way that's for everyone. Like everybody can do it different, right?
Yeah, no,
I love that.
For sure. Yeah, we're all different, and what works for one guy won't work for the other guy. So we're all different, and we all have to find our. All the NHL goalies they already made it. So
right.
But for the young guys, it's obviously really important.
I have an NHL column, but we also have InGoal magazine, and I'm always looking for advice for the young guys, right? So if I could ask one last one, when you're not busy and those nights where you feel like you're coming in, you haven't played, how do you handle it? Like, do you have a thing that helps you deal with nights where you don't see a lot of shots that a young kid might be able to?
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously, in kids hockey, there's probably no commercial break.
Yeah, of course.
So, but me personally, during the commercial break, I'm trying to move a little bit, do some T-pushes, so I call them.
Increase movements?
Increase movements, yeah. But again, they could do that during the stoppage of the game, like during the whistle, between the whistles. Yeah, exactly. They could do that. One really good goalie in the NHL, he retired, but he told me play with the puck more often. If you don't see much shots, obviously not try when it's hard rim on the glass. Obviously don't play that. But if you have an opportunity to play, just go and play. Move your feet, like make the nice play, and you'll feel a little better after that.
Pekka used to do that. Rene, right?
Yeah.
When he went from one coach where he was super busy, and then they had a new coach who was shot suppression, 20 shots a night, and he liked to move. He was active.
That was
so active.
But it wasn't his advice, though. It wasn't him. But,
it wasn't. But yeah, he's one that's told me the same thing. It's great advice.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm getting lucky, and I'm getting that 35 plus shots a game, and I feel great.
Yeah.
So, but again, it doesn't happen that often nowadays, unfortunately. So, but we'll get through it.
Bit of an exclusive on InGoal with that audio from Andrei Vasilevskiy through NHL.com and InGoal's Kevin Woodley.
Do you remember the first exclusive we had with him years ago?
No.
It's perfect because we used it it was a Christmas theme, Christmas story.
Well, see, that's not the one I'm remembering.
Are you remembering the left-handed one?
That's the one. Yeah.
I've used that 1,000 times.
That was tied to not being able to get the equipment when I asked him about Christmas gifts, him remembering his first, because like that's part of goaltending, right? All these guys have stories about remembering Christmas gifts, but it brought about, and he remembered a specific set getting back in Russia, but it brought about him telling me that he actually would have caught with the other hand if the gear had been available, but even in Russia with a dad that was playing professionally, he couldn't get it.
Remarkable.
I've told that to so many people. I'm telling them the third time now. I just love passing that story on about Andrei Vasilevskiy. So are goaltenders still as good, or has there been a drop-off in performance? I'm curious how you slide through this. And the other question is, how low do you think this save percentage number gets?
I think we're headed for sub 900 as a league average.
Yeah,
you do.
I think at the current trend, it was 901 when I wrote the article. And by the way, we'll have an InGoal version up this week because there are some other factors that I've since talked to other guys that didn't get included. And that includes shots not being counted the way they were before.
That's true. That's true.
And we know why. Because there's an increased presence in gambling, and over-under on shot totals was constantly hitting over because everything was getting counted. And so now, and the irony here, now here's the real irony. Clearsight has said that the NHL badly overcounts shot for years because Clearsight takes where the puck was released and draws lines to the post and sees where the save is made and can see whether it was actually going to be on net. So goalies will hate it. Goalies do hate it. I've talked to them. Pucks that are going wide by 4 inches that they catch, they're no longer credited with the save for. And the NHL is now actually following that up and talked to Spencer Knight about this. He's like, yeah, me and Bob will be sitting there at the bench. We'll look up and it said 14 shots 2 minutes ago, and now it's down to 11. And so they're auditing them like they never have done before. And so save percentage is being reduced because a lot of those long shots that I talked about are no longer being counted as shots. And again, Clearsight has kind of not counted them for a while, which is why their save percentage numbers have always been lower than what the NHL has had. But just to go into some of the numbers, some of the specifics. So clear-sighted shots from the perimeter, down 27.9% over the last 6 seasons. Clear-sighted shots from outside the slot, down 20.84%. Net play, so shots from dead angles. This is a really interesting one because for all the focus on reverse VH and the odd one that gets Sam Ersson the other night for the Philadelphia Flyers, I think it was Kaprizov, banks one in off his ear and in from a dead angle, and so everybody goes reverse VH and all this stuff. Guess what? Those shots, as much as they make headlines when they go in, are down 25% over the last 6 years.
Dead angle shots?
They are. We're seeing results on some of them, but overall dead angle shots, net play attempts are down 24.93% over the last 6 years, which may be, this is a discussion for another day, may inform a little bit of our coaching and how much time we spend focusing on dead angle plays and stopping them. And maybe the focus should be on, okay, having that insurance policy, being able to seal in case it comes, but being able to move off the post. Because right now what's going through the roof is passes from those dead angles and below the goal line up into the slot area, low high pop passes, one of the number one increases in offense over the past 2 years. Other things that are up over the last 6 seasons, low slot line plays, so below the hash marks, plays across the middle of the ice, up 26.6%. High slot line plays, so again, across the middle of the ice, make the goalie move, full rotation from one side to the other, 36.5%. Screens, and this is one where the public data misses in a big, big way. There are screen attempts. If your defenseman can hit the top corner with a layered screen, it goes in over 40% of the time. That's more than a freaking breakaway. But a lot of the public data does not, actually all of the public data, and frankly, some of the private data of other companies does not even account for screens. And so shots that go in 40% of the time, if you hit a certain spot, are credited as 1% scoring chances. So we see some of the wide discrepancies between public and private data. That's a big one. And guess what? Layered screens are up 12% and screen deflections are up 43.7%. So teams throwing pucks to the net and trying to get a tip, throwing pucks wide and trying to get a tip back on net, that is a scoring trend that we have seen increase massively in the NHL. And you add all this up, here's the other one. And Vasi talked about this because it changes the challenge for goaltenders. It becomes more of a mental battle, as he discussed in that interview. 6 years ago, 28-19, the mix of low danger to high danger was almost 3-1. So far in 24-25, it's closer to 2-1. So instead of for every high danger chance, you got 3 low danger, we're getting close to 2 low danger for every high danger. That's a significant change. It's not quite there. It's like when I checked in with them, it was 6,200 high danger to 13,000 low danger. So 6,500 would be a full 2-1, but that's how close we are. And 6 years ago, it was a 3-1 ratio. So these things are changing. I would argue in 6 years, given the history of the game, they're changing fast. And it's not the only reason save percentage is coming down. I think it's fair to ask, are goalies better or worse? And I need to dig into those numbers with Clearsight to see how the performances has shifted relative. But at the end of the day, this is definitely like the maths. If you see fewer easy chances and more harder chances, save percentage is going to come down even if goalies just stay the same in terms of their abilities and performance.
And you've left out the players themselves getting better over that time, as we've mentioned.
Well, we started with that, right? Like they've improved. You know why? Because they're going to goalie school.
Yeah, that's right.
They're working with skills coaches. The stuff that goalies had done for 20 years while the players were all bigger, stronger, faster in the offseason, they're now working on their skills like never before.
I just wanted to rewind to one piece you said a little bit ago there, Woody. because especially people who are a little bit newer listening in on the show might not be aware. You mentioned Spencer Knight looking up at the clock, seeing 14 shots, and then all of a sudden it's wound back to 11. I'm not sure everybody's aware that every shot is reviewed mid-game, and those totals do get adjusted on the fly. It's not like your minor hockey game where there's somebody in the penalty box hitting a button every time there's a shot. They're actually being reviewed on video to decide if they are valid shots. And then you've laid on top of that, Woody, that they're reviewing them even more stringently.
Yeah, I don't know how closely they were reviewed before. Let me tell you that, but they are being now.
I don't remember it either because as somebody that does intermissions on a regular basis on television, you have the shots and then they're changing mid-intermission. That's a new trend where you go to the first intermission with one total and you come out for the second period with a different total. That happens every night in every rink now. And
you'll also see it. I've been to games and I've been like this, but goalie parents, every time there's a shot, they look at the shot clock. Did my kid get credited? Did my kid get credited?
Yeah.
What you will notice, especially in junior and pro games, is sometimes there is that delay because they're reviewing it before they even put the initial shot up, so they don't end up having to wind something backwards. So you might
actually had this debate. I was doing stats one night for an American Hockey League game. To have some fun, to try something different and contribute. And what is a shot shocked me, and what isn't a shot surprised me.
Tell me more.
And well, just a puck that would go in, I thought was a shot.
Yeah,
but it doesn't count as a shot all the time. Something from center ice. And goes in.
We've talked about that before, and whether they're really doing
that's not a shot. And so
I'd love to know you got some direction on that, because we've had that question before. We've had people say that unless it's a legitimate attempt to score, it doesn't count as a shot.
That's what it was.
But I've never heard somebody go on record and say that. So that's interesting.
That was the direction I got, and then a shot that was not going to go in, and there was a save made, didn't count, which you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But
that skipper from center ice that Marc-Andre Fleury whiffed on and went into his net would be the evidence for, if it's on net, it should count.
Right. And then how do you have, if it goes in though, it's a shot. If it doesn't go in, it's not a shot. That was my counter argument to this person, because you can't have a goal without a shot.
But I was given a scenario the other day, and I wish I could remember the exact scenario because I need it right now, where there is a situation you can have a goal without a shot. And I think it's your own player directing it in.
I think it's the Fleury one.
Yeah, like it's not your player tips it into your net, but he actually fires it onto your net. It's not a shot on goal, but it's still a goal.
I think the Fleury one was also, because we went back and forth on this.
So is the Lindgren one a shot on goal?
We'll have to look that up.
Yeah, seriously.
Go back to the screens, because you were rattling off so much, and it was fascinating. When you went 12% more layered screens, what was the category after that at 40%?
Screen deflections.
Okay,
so getting
a
tip
40%,
43.7 over the last 6 years. So it's funny because and I live in a market where we're seeing this. The public data has the Canucks as one of the lowest expected goals for, so they generate the lowest expected goals. Like what they generate should not lead to goals according to the public data. And they're a very good net front team that has a dynamic, arguably the most dynamic defenseman alongside Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes at the point, who's able to get, and a goalie coach actually told me his sifter is 80 miles an hour, and that they're actually preparing for his sifter, which is a shot specifically designed to just quickly get it up and on net in a specific area, maybe for a tip. And so you have that elite talent, and you have a team that's conscious of layered traffic and tips and deflections at net front. And so the public data says they're the lowest in the league, and ClearSight data says they're, flirting with the top 10. And that's because a lot of those types of chances, they're 11th in high danger 5-on-5 chances. And everybody in this market screams that's not possible, but it is, because the chances that they generate that can go in as much as, hit a spot and it's 40%. But even without hitting that spot, just on average, it's an almost 20% scoring chance, gets counted in the public data as a 1 or 2% chance.
Here's a change for you. I had this conversation with a player the other day. and it revolved around deflections. And we were talking about who from the point delivers the most deflectable shot. And I brought up, that person is really good at keeping it low. And the offensive player countered to me saying, I like them high so I can tip them. That's a major change. Not too long ago, you didn't want a defenseman firing it high because it was dangerous. Nobody wanted to be in front of the net tipping a shot if it was going to be coming chest high towards you. Now, the players actually like the players providing the screen or the deflection, like the shot high because it presents more of a challenge for the goaltender because it's a vertical tip and a horizontal tip if you want it, but or a lateral tip. But you can go much lower with that deflection, and that's a major change. I was surprised to hear that.
I think there's two parts to that. We just talked about Quinn Hughes and his sifter. Like, how many guys are loading up? Like, there aren't any. Like, I don't say there aren't any, but like, there's not a lot of Shea Weber loading up the 1T for 100+ mile-an-hour bombs that'll go through the back of the net like it did at the Olympics I covered. Like, there's not that many. The guys are just trying to get it on net.
Yeah.
You're not seeing the 1T as a weapon nearly as much. Obviously, you have your Ovechkins and your Elias Petterssons, although we almost never see that on the power play in Vancouver anymore. Those types of weapons. But for the most part, it's just getting it on net. And to the forward, I'm assuming you're talking to a forward's point, Darren.
Yes.
A deflection on the ice, historically, goes in 2.6% of the time. A deflection in the air is close to 15%. So it's the difference between a really low danger chance and a mid-percentage chance, having that puck in the air deflected versus one along the ice. Because, unless you deflect it up off the ice, chances are the goalie's got the bottom of the net covered.
Except for those ones that are a high tip that go down to ice level. Those are actually hard to get to.
Yeah, but that's a deflection in the air.
That's all I'm saying. Like, to say, yeah, we've got the bottom of the net covered. It's sure if you're already down, but it's hard to get down and do those. I was just thinking that, Darren, your question is sort of a reflection of the skill in the league now too, isn't it? I mean, as Woody's talking about those one-timers, it really was just guys wasting as the hardest shot they can on net as possible, and who knows where it's going. I think the forwards now trust that their defensemen are being a little bit more purposeful, a little bit more skilled with those shots, so more safety. And how many times have you seen guys in practices just standing there working on those tips and almost never missing? I mean, there's some guys in this league that won't miss those high shots now. It's back in the day, maybe it's a little easier just to put your stick on the ice and tip that low shot, but now they've got the skill to handle those ones that are coming in high.
Well, and to go back to our point about the Carl Alsners of the league being filtered out defensively, you're no longer paying the price to stand in front and tip it like you used to. Like, you're absorbing some cross checks, but nobody's breaking off an old wood Sherwood in your lower back like they used to.
I wonder if slap shots are down.
Oh, yeah. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I've seen stories documenting that for sure. Slap shots are way down.
Like, the eye test tells you they're down.
It's all about, and again, part of this comes back to the analytics and recognizing what makes a goalie's life tougher and delivering more of those shots. And what's one of the biggest things that makes our life tougher? Puck movement that doesn't allow us to get set and in position for the next shot. And the quickest way to do that, now, okay, a one-timer works, but just quick releases and getting it on net is more important these days than the perfectly placed, hardest shot you can deliver.
I laugh all the time about the story regarding goaltenders in the National Hockey League not being set and how you can take advantage of that. And then I think about my league and what it looks like when a goaltender's not set and he's standing up, wobbling back, or on the ice, and like that's a much different,
slightly larger percentage of not set.
What we're looking.
I'm not sure I'm ever set.
If that's what it looks like when a goaltender's not set, then I'm never. You're right. Even in a drill, I'm not set, and it's the same guy coming down or the same slot angle on the flow drills coming by. Fun stuff. Let's pursue this a little bit more because I've got some questions I'd love to fire at you online. and see if we can get some more. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied with all the research that you've got, because there's another level to the rabbit hole. The gear segment brought to you by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley, thehockeyshop.com. I just got a sneak peek of this. This is fun as we get into growing the next generation of goaltenders.
Yeah, and a great little set of equipment. We're going to let Cam explain it, but the idea here is to be able to get in and out of it at the really young ages. And I could maybe we save this for a segment, invite Steve Thompson from USA Hockey on. The idea of quick change gear has been a big program they've run down in the States. The idea that kids at these ages shouldn't exclusively be playing goal, that everybody should be trying it. It's not just about the kids that want to be goalies not giving them a chance. It's about giving the kids that don't know if they want to or not them opportunities to try it. And so Bauer's got a great setup. You can, I would imagine this would be a great sales for associations, Hutch, as well as individuals on teams that'll allow you to let more goalies try the position. And I like what they've done with it. Let's let Cam explain the rest. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop, source for sports. We're over in Goalie Utopia, where something that was built specifically for Cam is on display.
Yes.
Learn to save kit from Bauer. About time somebody named something after your inability to stop pucks. But in all serious, folks, we've been talking a lot about junior lines and youth lines and kids lines. And Bauer's got a really, just comes in one box, in one bag, complete kit.
Yes.
So, not quite, no mask, but...
Correct. Contrary to Kevin's belief, this wasn't designed specifically for me. This is designed for associations to be able to quick change goalies on the fly. So we're talking like our Hockey 1, our Hockey 2, Hockey 3, the youngest kids.
Cam's Beer League.
Exactly. They're going to be wearing, their shin pads and everything else. This gear has the ability to go over those shin pads, use the existing gear that the kids are already wearing. So you literally can swap, guys and girls right out very, very quickly, and giving them the ability to try that goaltending position basically on the fly. So
that's a great thing at a time when we are seeing goaltender numbers dwindle on this side of the border and in the United States. I know these types of programs have been really active down there, the ability to get more kids trying the position. Right. Also, associations where you don't want kids having to buy their own sets of gear at this age gives that option as well. So let's pull it out. Show me what's in here, what
All
makes
right,
it
what's
good.
What's in the bag? Okay, let's start. You've got a glove there.
Itty bitty glove.
I've got some leg pads.
And yet it still fits my hand. That may be an editorial comment of some sort. Close is easy. I like that. Okay, I'll let you start with the pads.
Okay, back to folks. Okay, so nice wide open channel designed to go over that shin pad. You are getting, again, a basic kind of style of pad, but the whole point here is just to get the goalie set up and get them in the net. So this will go over that shin pad, no problem. Wraps around, still get those same elastic style toe ties that Bauer uses.
Simple.
In their pad. Simple, yeah, exactly.
Get them on easy.
Simplicity here. That's why you're only really seeing 2 straps. Well, 3 if you include the toe ties.
You know what I like? Because this is also good for Cam, but really good for new goalie parents. Left and right.
Yes.
And also, I think we should include this for Hollywood producers, because every time they need a set of pads, they get it wrong.
They get it wrong as well. So, easy to do up pads.
Easy to put on and close glove. I love, look at how easy that is. Just, I don't have the strongest hands. Let's be honest. I'm a little soft, a little weak. No problem closing this.
I didn't even have to say anything. This is great. And you know what? He basically hit all the key points in the glove there. Again, the biggest thing here is that we want to have the goalies feel comfortable. So it's just a matter of having this easy close glove off the shelf. Cool thing about the blocker. So this, if you look at the back end, missing a couple things. That's because it's designed to work with a regular player glove. So the goalie, with their regular, playing out glove, would be able to pop their regular hockey glove in there, tighten down that wrist strap, and now have a blocker that's ready to rock and roll. So
okay. The other thing I noticed when I looked left and right, medium, 24-inch plus. Are there different sizes of this?
24 and 22 available in the kits. So 2 different sizes.
Associations, take note. This is a good thing, not just for your goaltenders, but for goaltending in general. What else we got?
So one last thing is, what about a chest protector? That one's kind of hard to swap in and out. So Bauer just came up with a padded jersey that will slide over, again, those current shoulder pads. This will give a little bit more abdominal protection. Again, we're not talking about the highest level of play here. This is designed to have that quick interchange.
Note to all you coaches who like to be like weekend warriors, come down and snipe on your 8-year-old goaltenders, maybe not the place for it.
Don't be hammering box at. Yes, exactly. So again, it's not the thickest, but again, it will be that introduction too. So all a great kit. And it comes in that easy bag. That's the best part.
This really is good, like not just for goaltenders, but for the position of goaltending. Like we said, we are seeing numbers dwindle on both sides of the border in terms of people that want to play goal. Oftentimes, they don't get the opportunity to try it. This is a great way to try it. Really good for associations at that lower level. If you got any questions, you're looking at multiple sets, give Cam a call. Where can they get a hold of you?
604-589-8299 or 1-800-567-7790 or at thehockeyshop.com. You can give us an email at sales@thehockeyshop.com. Check it out. Make sure we have the right product for you and send it out to you.
It's too late for Cam to learn to save, but not for you.
I knew before I even introduced that with you guys that you were going to take a shot at Cam about the learn to play. It was just, it was there and it was perfect.
All teed up.
And he knew it was coming and there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing he could do about it either. Poor guy's got to suffer through it.
Hey, Cam's a pretty good goaltender though, isn't he?
No.
No?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding.
I've heard good things about Cam's game.
Pot calling the kettle.
But I suck too, so...
That kit, and I know it's not what it's designed for, but there's always possibilities and results that come from just looking at something and saying, I could do something else with that. The Learn to Play goalie kit looks like, this is the first thing I thought of, was like road hockey, ball hockey, street hockey would be an awesome thing if you're playing out there with your buddies or your kids are out there and they want a goalie. You don't need the full kit, but the jersey would be perfect. The pads and the gloves with the blocker, that's genius. The blocker. There's so many cool things with that beyond what it's made for, and to get people to play goal and experience that.
Wouldn't that jersey have been nice when you had the old stinging orange balls when you were playing road hockey? Especially in Brandon, Manitoba, where it's really cold. Those must have hurt.
Darn, we didn't use them.
No, would you use?
It was tennis balls.
Tennis balls?
Tennis balls. Yeah.
In Brandon, those orange balls, you might as well use rocks.
Plus, those orange balls, if you miss the net, those things would roll for 3 miles.
That's true. I think as much as this gear is positioned for an association or a team that wants to share amongst players, I can see a lot of young families really wanting to have this under the Christmas tree. Because quite often your child really wants to be a goaltender, even though they talk about equal play. Some young kids at age 5 or 6 are playing more than others, and not every association has that gear for them that's going to fit properly, is going to be for them. So maybe something like this is something that a really young child would love to have.
Well, I could see teams making this decision. If your association doesn't, the cost is low enough here that you could split it among a group of parents. And I know hockey's expensive as it is, but if you believe in the things that USA Hockey believes in, after seeing the presentations, there's a lot of reasons to believe in them, and you want to see more kids try it at the really young ages. You don't want your kid to be the one stuck in the net all the time. You want to see everybody get an opportunity to play. Like, I could see teams making this purchase just so they can have that experience. It's a great idea. It's a great execution, in my opinion, by Bauer on this one, as Cam outlines. And yeah, like it's there's a lot to like about initiatives like this, and nice to see that it's not just the larger entities like USA Hockey, that they've got partners at this sort of manufacturer level that are getting on board with these types of initiatives as well.
What is the price range?
I couldn't find it off the top of my head, Darren. I just couldn't Google fast enough.
All right. I'm surprised that it took us this long to come up with a blocker idea like that. I love the concept of the pads going over top of the shin pads. That is cool. And stick tap. And you pointed it out with Cam, the left and the right. Brilliant.
Yes. For guys like Cam that can't figure out, I mean,
like everybody's done it at some point. Like you've been around where it's happened, and when you're new, you don't know.
And as they point out in the video, how many times do we see Hollywood make that mistake?
Right.
I threw a screen cap from Hollywood into the video. So go take a look, folks, on YouTube, because all the gear segments are on YouTube. I was going to ask people to guess maybe before they watched it, but yeah, that's exactly where it was. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all good.
So on today's episode of Kevin is an Idiot, the key to finding the Bauer Learn to Play goalie equipment is to actually call it by its proper name, which is Bauer Learn to Save goalie equipment. Oh. And the price for a set at the Hockey Shop, sourced for sports, hockeyshop.com, is $3.99 Canadian, folks. So for you Americans, that's like a trip to Starbucks, the way the dollar's going right now. But yeah, $3.99 at the Hockey Shop, Canadian funds, for the complete setup. It comes in a nice little box, which I believe, if I remember correctly, has a little handle to carry it with. Maybe there's a bag as well in there, isn't there, Hutch? That you
there is a bag that comes with you. Absolutely,
yeah,
you got everything.
It comes with its own bag.
Everything you need, but a cup.
Pretty much is self-contained. Yeah, definitely get the cup.
Oh, and a helmet too. Actually, a few things.
One more idea.
Yes, sir.
The jersey, the padded jersey. We have padded underwear, padded undergarments. Could you wear that as a padded undergarment?
You totally could. And if parents are looking for a great gift under the Christmas tree that's affordable, other than the InGoal subscription, any of those padded undergarments are fantastic, because you might use them at the low level like this, but you see them all the way up to the National Hockey League.
You see them in the National Hockey League, all right. They're being used to make them look bigger.
I just ordered a new set.
What'd you get?
The same one that I had before, the Vaughn one, because it makes me look bigger. I like sending Woody selfies because I look like a Hulk. I look like a legitimate huge human being with that thing on. And I didn't wear it the other day, maybe like 3 weeks ago. And I felt like I was tiny without it, with just a regular shirt underneath.
I'm waiting to see the. I've seen a few, not quite to this extreme, but variations of it. Guys in the show, like with multiple shirts or different combinations of shirts to make sure that they're bulked up underneath their chest protector. Multiple.
Okay, where do you get more stingers?
Well, Woody never gets.
Mine's the arms.
Woody never gets hit. He's fine.
His puck goes in the net all the time, Darren. It's hard to get a stinger when they don't hit you with it. Thigh, upper thigh, and then that's probably it. Like, honestly,
you're catching them all in the pocket, are you, Woody?
No. But we've established that, like, I don't believe in bruises. I don't think this position should hurt that much, and there's equipment out there that will prevent it. Like, you know, and like my better games are against players that are way over my head, but it's not Shea Weber. We may have somebody we know that does skate with Shea Weber and has had some damage done, but listen, he's not, you know, like I don't feel like I should be black and blue, and I'm not very often. So there's equipment out there that can prevent you from taking these, and I wear most of it. I've got a undergarment shirt on. I have a very beefy chest protector on, one that's not legal in the NHL, because I don't feel like I should hurt all that often. I am soft.
A dilemma that has occurred at every level of hockey. That is the subject in our Stop It Goaltending U, the app parent segment this week. Stop It Goaltending, one of our great partners this year.
You know what Stop It Goaltending also has with their Stop It Goaltending U, the app, Darren? A great Christmas gift item. It may be just around the corner, but you can get and download Stop It Goaltending U, the app, in a matter of minutes. Whether it's their basic $9.99 per month subscription or a premium $19.99 a month subscription that comes with one-on-one coaching and access to their coaches on phone calls and video sessions, or the basic level, there's something for everyone at the Stop It Goaltending U app. It will make you a better goaltender, and of course, it all comes with a subscription to InGoal Magazine, the best of both worlds. InGoal Magazine Premium and Stop It Goaltending U, the app. Literally hours and hours and hours of video tips and instructions at your fingertips on your phone, on your tablet. And as we've said before, you can digest it in small chunks. Daily 1-minute primers, 5-minute videos on the weekend, 20-minute videos on the weekend, and of course, all the material from InGoalMag.com. Go down a rabbit hole, spend hours on it, or just dedicate 30 minutes a week, and you will become a better goaltender with Stop It Goaltending U, the app.
Okay, this week, guys, I took this one straight from the Goalie Parent Facebook group that I follow along with. And the question was, how do you deal with a team goalie coach that is undoing prior goalie coaching by teaching the wrong things? I do want to say before I jump into this, guys, I don't know the individual very well. I don't know much about the situation. I didn't hop in and answer something on there because there's too many nuances involved. So anything I'm doing here or saying here is not directed at that individual. I would ask a lot of questions before I jumped in and answered this one. But in general,
my first question is, how do you know they're doing the wrong thing?
Well, exactly, right? Yeah. I was going to say, there's so few absolutes in this game. There's so few things that if you got a group of goalie coaches and put them together in one room, they would all insist on your kid doing. So unless that kid's being asked to make a skate save or to never look at the puck when they catch it or something like that, I was really curious. What do you call is wrong? And, you know,
whatever Woody's doing.
Yeah, like there aren't many absolutes also because of the reads in the situation. Like think about last week's pro read with Joseph Wool, where he went into the RVH in a place so many coaches would say is an absolute, you must never do it. And yet he did have a reason for doing it there. So the first thing I'd say is I would really encourage a discussion that is framed more in terms of making the assumption that you don't completely get what the coach is asking and then trying to learn from their perspective. I think you're going to have an easier discussion with him if you approach it that way. And keep in mind, again, what we hear from so many NHL goalies, that it's about tools in the toolbox. Like, give it a go, try what they want. I think even Eric Comrie in that last interview talked about it. And if it doesn't work for you and you've really tried it, well, then we get to a discussion about how you can talk about it. But first, I would also say to parents that if there's going to be some level of discussion with a goalie coach around this, I would encourage you to help your child take responsibility for that. This is not the time to call a parent meeting to tell the goalie coach that you think there's a problem here. Taking the time to help your child learn to handle these things on their own is so important. And it's going to be essential as they get older in the game. It's going to be essential away from the rink as you handle other situations in life. And if your child is nervous or they're unsure about it, then role play it with them. This is a big deal for them. I really do believe that. So taking the time to work at their approach and to help them learn how they'll deal with this discussion, that's a skill you're going to help them with. It's going to help them in life way after they're making stick saves or dealing with puck tracking or whatever. So what would you say? I would say something like, I just want to make sure I understand what you're asking me to do here, because in the past, I've had some coaches ask me to do it another way. Were they looking at things in a different way? Or maybe you could explain to me the advantage of why you're asking me to do it a little bit differently. I'd try to be looking at it from different angles. And if I still really felt like I'm in the right here, still approach it from that maybe I don't completely understand perspective and see what you can learn in a discussion. It's less threatening. It's not going to have the coach with their back up wanting to argue with you. They're going to see that you're just trying to learn from them as well. And maybe even include that idea. But when you say something like, hey, coach, I really do think it's important for me to try new things. And I've been working at doing it your way over the last little while in practice, but I'm still struggling with it. Can we talk about this a little bit, please? And maybe you even talk specifics in what it is that you're trying to do. And that's okay as well. But it is about relationships with you and the coach as well. I think I need to say that. And but if you present it the right way, you might find that you're more or less on the same page, or maybe you're going to learn something from the coach when you have a good discussion about it, rather than a come in saying you're wrong about this. We need to do it a little bit differently. And you know what else I've seen happen before, guys? When you have those proper discussions, the coach might learn something from you as well. I've certainly learned things from all sorts of different athletes I've worked with. Your relationship with the coach is so, so important, and it needs to be in the right place. So you need to preserve it in how you're having this discussion. You also need to recognize, is it in the right place to even be jumping into this? Because just like a coach needs to earn your respect, you need to earn their respect before you go in questioning what it is that they're doing. Have you been that kid who really digs deep, tries everything, puts their head down and works? Then you're going to have more respect from the coach and more opportunity to ask questions. So is it the right time to even be going at this? But please, please, please don't just jump into it and say, coach, that's not right. Or my other goalie coach says I have to do it this way. Or at my goalie camp this summer, they taught me. That's just setting up an adversarial relationship and not that partnership that you want with your coach. Imagine for a second that you were teaching something and your student didn't agree with you. How would you want them to bring it up with you? Try and do it that way. I was on the ice with an NHL goalie a couple of summers ago, and he wanted to discuss every suggestion that came his way. I actually like to do it this way. Can you explain to me what you mean by this? It was literally every suggestion it came up with. But you know what? He's in the National Hockey League. He's earned that opportunity to have that discussion. He was still open to talking about it, which was fantastic. But a younger goalie is not in that same position. So you got to be careful. You're not going to harm that relationship if you question everything, or you question too often, or you don't approach it in more of a shared relationship way. The reality, as we've said, is there's so many different ways to play this position. There's so many different variations on a situation. So be open to other things and learn from other coaches as best you can. Give it a go, or find some time at home to practice what's going to be that best approach with the coach.
Put in the work. You don't have to use it in every game, but put in the work. Because we all learn something, trying something different or new.
Yeah, I mean, look, even if the coach is telling you to stand up in the post and not use the RVH, what another coach has asked you to do, try it, see what happens. You might learn why you like the RVH. You might learn that maybe there's a situation that his technique actually does work for you. I think it would be a very rare coach that would be teaching everything completely wrong and say it's my way or the highway. If that really is the case, well, reach out, parents@ingoalmag.com, and I'd be happy to talk your specific situation through.
Trying to think of Woody.
Well, you know what?
On the back of the net.
Well, me, I mean, anything I do is wrong. But you know who I had this conversation with recently was Joonas Korpisalo. Because there's a guy who went from Columbus, starting with Ian Clark, to Manny Legacy, to LA with Billy Ranford, to Ottawa with Justin Peters, and now in Boston with Bob Essenza in a matter of what? Like the last 3 teams are all within like a year and a half. A lot of different voices, a lot of different ideas. We had a long chat about sort of how to manage different coaches and different voices. And much like our Vasilevskiy chat earlier, not enough to be a feature interview, but I think I'll see if it was just in the locker room with voices in the background, but I see if we can package that, maybe include that, because I think it would be a good part, a good answer to that parent segment, to hear an NHL guy talking about all the different things that he's added to his game and his approach. Tools in the toolbox was how he put it. Mm-hmm. Always be willing to add them.
That reminds me, as you mentioned, Billy Ranford, the segment we published out of the Hockey Shops Day, where Bill Ranford was talking about the net play system for the LA Kings, and he had my son Matthew demonstrating. And they had a discussion beforehand as Bill was teaching the system to Matty. And Matthew just said to him, "Hey, Bill, I think this is really awesome, but my goalie coach in Vancouver wants me to do something a little bit different in this position." And it wasn't an argument, it was a discussion. And Bill came back at him and said, "That's fine. Do it his way. But here's what you can pick up from my system that maybe you can add to what he's asking you to do." Really great way of doing things.
And I think it's a great conversation on the Facebook group. I think it's really a great question.
And Korpisalo integrates elements of Bill's play thing and still uses part of it, but has blended it with some more new things that he got from Bob Essenza. So it's fascinating.
On to Pro Reads, brought to us by Visual Edge.
Visual Edge, our new partners for Pro Reads. Makes sense that they would partner with Pro Reads, because Pro Reads is all about how NHL goalies see the game, and Visual Edge helps NHL goalies and everybody below that level see the puck better. Visual and cognitive training tools, all delivered online, and to help you through a bunch of different visual skills. Identify through the Edge test where your strengths and weaknesses are. They customize a program that you can do on your computer, on your tablet, continue to build up all those skills so that you can see pucks, see plays, read plays, do it all better than you did before. Cam Talbot, one of the many NHL goaltenders that have used it, and attributes his late career success and all the All-Star games he's made over the past number of years to adding it to his repertoire in 2021. And did I mention, like a lot of the other elements we've talked about today, because it's a digital product, it's not too late to get it under the tree for your goaltender. Make sure you check them out at Visual Edge, proud presenting sponsor of InGoal Pro Reads.
So our pro read this week, guys, was Devin Levi of the Buffalo Sabres. And I thought one of the things that was so cool about it is this particular play had him thinking back to another play that he had made previously where he made a mistake. And it was an eye-opening one for him. It said, wow, I've just learned something about the National Hockey League. And it had him play this next one just a little bit differently. I don't know that we need to get too much into the specifics because you should go and watch it over at InGoalMag.com. A reminder, if you're not a member yet, you still get to see everything except that final little pro read where he actually walks through it himself. But you get to see the play, you get to see it, everything gets set up and make your own decision. And I just, the fact that he learned from this play, look, we've seen him in some amazing 9-1-1 situations on ice in the summer, and yet you still have to play the game. You still have to see what happens on the ice. You still have to learn from those situations on the ice as he has in this one.
Well, and the other part is you could argue, if you wanted to, that part of what he learned was not to overcommit to one side. And some people might look at how he stays in the middle and think, oh, he's cheating a little bit for the pass. But there's a reason. It's a fine line between cheating and being ahead of it. And in this case, he was ahead of it. And it was fascinating to have him explain why. And as Hutch said, the history that led to it. And of course, you can check out Devin Levi on video breaking down this save and others exclusively in the Pro Read section at InGoalMag.com, presented by Visual Edge. There are over 350 now videos featuring almost 40 NHL goaltenders breaking down saves that they've made and explaining the save selection, depth decisions, what they see and why they do it. There is no better way to learn how to read the game than InGoal Magazine's Pro Read section. Check it out now at InGoalMag.com.
Amazing feature interview this week with Rob Tallas in our Sense Arena feature interview. Robbie covers a lot of different areas with Woody, all brought to us by NHL Sense Arena.
I remember as a kid, guys, at Christmas, there were some Christmases where my parents are super, super generous, but I didn't get that thing that I could just play with right away. You know, I might have got a new pair of pants, a cool new shirt, something like that, but I wanted something I could pull out from under the tree and use it right then and there. And one of the things you could do is get a MetaQuest headset and get a subscription to NHL Sense Arena so you can play goal underneath the Christmas tree on Christmas morning. It gives you the opportunity to do all kinds of fun things, but you also get access to the entire library of MetaQuest games that you can go out there and grab. So little Johnny might be having fun being a goalie, but right after that, every other member of the family can be trying something cool in virtual reality. But in terms of NHL Sense Arena, you get so many great things. Like we're talking about having a little bit of fun on Christmas morning. You can go out there to stick and puck and mess around on the ice with other people, even chit-chatting with them as you're setting up cool things to do on the ice and have a whole lot of fun. Or you can just do some individual neurocognitive drills and work on that eye-hand coordination and all sorts of cool things. You can go out and do warm-ups. You can do drills. You can do them on outdoor rinks. You can hang out in an NHL locker room. There are so many cool things you can do with NHL Sense Arena. Oh, and by the way, it makes you a better goaltender, just like Joey Daccord of the Seattle Kraken, who uses it before NHL games, has even used it in between periods during NHL games. It's going to make you a better goalie, trust me, while giving you hours of fun. Check it out at sensearena.com. And as always, try the code IGM50 and you will save even more.
Just a tip, if you do experience this for the first time around the holidays, make sure it's in a different room than the tree.
Yeah, or you have a lot of space away from the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all...
Because you'll end up...
Yeah, or that Bauer Learn to save gear might be good.
Yeah, put that on.
You can throw that on your hands so that you're not banging into the Christmas tree. Seriously, MetaQuest does let you set up a safety boundary before you actually use it, Sometimes we've all been a little bit too lazy to set up that boundary, or we've just moved into a different room and all of a sudden we're making blocker saves into desks and so on.
I've walked into things.
Yeah.
Couches,
I've been tackled
tables.
by the dog.
That's kind of cool.
Mid-save. Yeah, it's kind of fun. Let me try.
Well, it's screen. It's dealing with traffic.
Yeah, it's sure.
Dougie. Let's get to Rob Tallas. And this is a fantastic conversation, isn't it?
Oh, it really was. One of my very favorite, just especially as a coach, but I actually think for goaltenders, because I do this so often. The second I edit the thing, I send it on to my son and say, you need to listen to this. This is just such a fantastic interview. But yeah, just setting up that relationship between goaltender and coach, talking about the approach that they take with each other, talking about that experience of being a pro. Just all of it was fantastic. But we should let Rob tell the story.
Here's Rob Tallas, the NHL Sense Arena feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast with Kevin Woodley.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast an oversight, a massive oversight that I have to say, first-time guest. Our subscribers at InGoal Magazine will know him very well because he's helped us out with drills from time in Kelowna at the Net 360 camp and times we've seen him working with the Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers goalie coach Robbie Tallas. Robbie, Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers goalie coach Robbie Tallas. Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be on here. I love what you do. I love how I've always communicated with you over the years, and you've been unbelievable for the goalies across the world.
Well, the same goes for you. I right down to the Matt Greenfield drill that we've got, and then we had him on as a guest as well. You've always been so kind to share your knowledge and experience with us. We can't thank you enough. I know our audience has enjoyed it, and we're looking forward to this. So I guess Let's start with most recent. What's it like? What was that like? The run, the emotion, the swings, having been there the year before in the final to finally get over the hump?
Yeah, you know what? Especially for our team, it's been kind of a whirlwind the past few years. We were President Trophy winners a few years back, thinking that that was our time, and that we kind of went into the playoffs and got past the first round finally, and all of a sudden came to a halt against Tampa. And it's crazy because you expect that year was going to be our year, and then coaching change. Paul Maurice comes in, changes the complete dynamic of our team as far as all offense, all run and gun, to adding a lot more responsibility defensively, and just that change. And it took a while for us for a team that played a certain style for a few years to adjust and no longer really carry the puck in, but rim the puck in and go get it and play a harder style. And then you could see as the season went along, as we bought into it more and the guys started to feel comfortable with it, now playoffs started, we were playing a playoff style of hockey. And going into that first run, losing to Vegas was an interesting kind of series, because with every series there's belief and doubt, and you hear that all the time. It's such a roller coaster ride where one game you feel like, okay, we've got this series, and then losing a game you feel like the series is out of your hand because you're going back to their rink or they're coming back home. So there's just it was a real learning process for myself and for our goalies and Bob especially to control that, to really focus on the now. What the day is laying out for us at this time. And it was always our slogan a little bit was like, live in the day, like just live in the day. As simple as it sounds, we cannot get ahead of ourselves because it does tie you up and it grabs your emotions with the way the series goes. And so that was our approach. And, we finally get to the finals, and losing in the finals, we were pretty banged up at the time. It's not an excuse, but we were really injured and we lost. And this is what I took out of it. After the loss, I was coming down and I was walking in the coach's office, and there's a feeling of sadness. There's a feeling of, oh, we came so close. And yet there was a feeling of reward, like how far we came. We just got into the playoffs. We were underdogs the entire way. And then you walk in the coach's office and you can kind of see that with all us coaches sitting there, the heartbreak, but also like that huge achievement, except for Paul Maurice. And I looked at him and he he was mad and he was disappointed and he was a different emotion, and I didn't understand it. And, then, we wrap up things and we go home and, it's a short summer and we come back. And then as last year kind of starts off, we had some injuries at the start, but we had a great start. And then you start to realize why he was mad, because of how hard it is to get there. And you get caught up in the playoffs and you're living in that moment and you're going, but you also forgot how hard it was. And you're also like, this might not ever happen again, or this might happen in 5 years. This might happen, next year. You don't know. And that's when I realized that why he was the way he was. And then last year, successful season. We had the confidence of how we played going into that first round last year, and then just how it carried out and the way we just approached every series, every game, how prepared we were. And then getting into that final series, I mean, it was a different dynamic team that we faced all from the East side. The East side is, a lot more checking, a lot more dumping, a lot more grinding. And now we're facing a team that has such offensive power and two of the best players in the world. And, truthfully, the first couple, to be up 3-0, none of us saw that happening. We figured that this was a 7-game. We prepared every round that we prepared. Paul does a really good job of preparing us, not for 4 games, or 4 wins. It's 7 games. So going into that series, being up 3-0 was incredible at the time, but also the shift in the pressure all of a sudden, because you have the entire world saying it's only been done once in the history of hockey. You guys got this. This is yours. It's yours. You're going to win. It just whatever game it. So now you start to feel that pressure building. They blow us out in game 4, which, okay, that happens, but game 5 should be our game. And we know it. And we played well that game and we lost. And now we felt their grip. And I think one of the best things was what happened in the Boston series the year before. We gripped them. They were the best team in the history of hockey. They were up in the series 3-1, and we gripped them and we didn't let go. And we knew that with every second that we kept it close, that we kept it tight, that every second that came off the clock is our advantage. And so going through that series and how we felt, Edmonton, we knew Edmonton had that grip on us. And so we had to counter it. We had to let go of that grip no matter what. And it was tough. We knew it was tough coming back to Edmonton to win it. And we lose in game 6 and the hype. But after game 6 and coming back, I think Paul's speech to our team, a little bit about playing with freedom and just how he worded it. And also the 2 days prior to that game, there was almost a relief of the pressure. And now we're both kind of on equal playing field again. And I think that relief is what helped us win that game 7.
Because they're playing, after going down 3-0, they're playing with nothing to lose, and all of a sudden they have something to win.
Exactly. And now the playing field kind of got even a little bit there, and we felt it. And we felt the confidence. Paul's an incredible coach. His speeches are incredible. And I think he just kind of let the guys know before the game that, it's kind of all right to make the mistakes, because we got each other's backs in here. And, and we just went out and we played that style of game that, we played for the last 2 years, and what we've learned through the playoffs from the prior season. And it was incredible 2 years of making it to the finals and then winning it. And just, you talk to people about it that won before, and it's undescribable. Because you don't really realize it, and you talk about it. It's something you've dreamed your entire life, and it's so hard to get. You dream about making it as a professional hockey player, and a lot of guys make it, and then to finally win something that you've just dreamt about your entire life or visualized, and it coming true is such an incredible feeling. And then to enjoy it with your family, your friends, and everybody is just something that now that you have the taste of it, you just want to do it every year. So it's been incredible for sure.
Well, and to do it in a place where you've been for 16 seasons with this team, like, you know, a true like pillar of the franchise from the goalie coaching side for so long, mean more that regard as well.
Well, for sure, because it's your team. You know, I've been so blessed to be with one team. You know, without a doubt, there's years that you probably should have been fired, could have been fired. New coaches come in. It's kind of maybe a little bit of lucky with goalie coaches sometimes, and even assistant coaches, where a new coach comes in and gives you that chance for the year. And so you're kind of like just proving yourself a few times, and then, you know, if the coach likes you, or you know, your goalies are playing well at the time, and you know, you get that balance a little bit where you get a little lucky, and it, you know, you roll into the new coach, and you know, I was fortunate to go through a couple changes like that, and also learn from a lot of great coaches too, that they kind of teach you that, like, their way, so you can kind of almost, you know, you look at it. For as long as I've been here, with some of the coaches I've been here, it's almost like being on, you know, 4 or 5 different teams. So you learn so many different things from different coaches that you can apply to yourself and build from. And I think that just makes you actually a better coach yourself. So I think I've kind of taken advantage of that. And I've been so fortunate to have some older goalies. You know, my first year with Tallas, I feel like I had some guys like almost into their retirement years.
Lou.
Trying to get the best of them, from Thomas to Theodore to, you know, Roberto coming back and getting the best out of him and at the end of his career. And then, you know, Bob even signing with us as a bit of an older guy, kind of, you know, the first couple of years were not easy for Bob here. And then, you know, the adjustments that he's made, he continues to grow and craft his game. And you look at him now, how he plays it's as a 36-year-old, 35-year-old, 36-year-old, you know, Bob's, you know, playing some of his best hockey still.
Is that, I mean, the common bond? I mean, you're talking about some of the greats. Thomas Falcoon, to me, criminally underrated historically in the game. Roberto's in the Hall of Fame. Bob's going to be in the Hall of Fame, no doubt. The one thing they have in common, I know for sure with Roberto, and you mentioned it with Bob, is never content with what they're doing right now, always looking to evolve.
Yes. So that's one. I think the biggest thing is what you said. They don't just get stuck in their own ways. They're willing to learn. They're willing to evolve. And you know what? But most goalies have to. If anybody, that even the good goalies that played long careers in the NHL, they're going to have to change things as they go. But I think, and it was funny because me and Spencer just did some video and we we're talking about this 20 minutes ago. And I said, well, there's a lot of really good goalies in this league. And then there's a few great goalies in this league. And those are the Hall of Famers. And so what separates them? What is that separation? And for me, with even a guy like Thomas Falcoon, very underrated, and probably a guy athletically that, and I'm not saying this in any negative way about him, is he probably isn't the most athletic guy.
I think of the narrow butterfly, and yes.
But he's a very thick man, very strong, very powerful. A goalie that can't do the splits. You know, that's why he had a narrow butterfly. But one thing, Jose Theodore, smaller guy, light on his feet, you know, one thing that all these guys have in common is their preparation. The way they get prepared on a game day. And it's not about all their mental toughness and all that. It's about how their ability to truly dedicate their life to their preparation to play their games. They don't just show up, play soccer, stretch, and say, okay, I'm going to go play the game tonight. They truly are some of the first guys at the rink. The amount of non-superstitious things that are in their way, they truly get prepared each and every way differently throughout the day to get their body and mind ready for the drop of the puck. It doesn't matter who they're playing against, in a sense. They're not looking at, I'm playing the Rangers tonight, I'm playing the Canucks tonight, it's about getting my body and mind ready for the drop of the puck to give my best performance. And you watch them get prepared. If people could see the camera in the room, especially Lou, when he was injured and he was coming back from his hip surgery, the amount of hours he put in to play a game.
I remember him telling like 2 hours before a morning skate.
Before a morning skate. And then he'd come back at the rink and then get ready for the game. Right now, if you put a camera in the room and you watch Bob's preparation and the details that he goes through just to prepare himself for the game is incredible. And it's exhausting. You know, for a lot of people to do the same thing over and over every day is mentally exhausting. It can drain you, but they've truly found a way to prepare themselves, get themselves ready, and enjoy it. And I find that is the separation from greatness to good.
Any commonalities? Like you said, they're all different athletes, different routines. I know the Robertos became more about hip maintenance by the end there, but I've been blessed a few times to be in the room after. Like Bob's doesn't end when the game ends, right? And last night I was leaving and heading back up to the press box to write, and there's Bob heading out to do some exercises in the little makeshift gym behind the visitors room at Rogers Arena. Like, is there any commonality other than that they all dedicate themselves to that preparation? Are there any over the years that you'd be like, if you had a new guy, you'd be like, hey, I think this is something that should be a part of it? Or is it just a matter of finding what works and making sure you stick to it?
Well, I think that's the challenge. And for young guys, they have to find what works for them. You know, for Bob, it's probably more mental. A lot of the stuff he does, and also for Bob, the physical stuff that he does. You know, a lot of his physical activity, a certain guy could probably do in 45 minutes and have it done and be just as strong, where Bob might drag it out 2 hours because it's part of his preparation, it's part of his feel, it's how he, you know, the details of how he looks at his body is in depth, where Lou wouldn't have to do that as much, but Lou's confidence came from how he stretched, how he prepared, how he got ready mentally and got himself up for that game. So I think that's part of the process that guys have to go through and take out the superstitions, put in the facts that work for you to get yourself ready, and make sure that you're confident, feeling great at that time. You know, Bob is, like you said, unique, where last year when we went, 5 overtimes with Carolina, it's 3:30 in the morning. It was 2:30, I think, when we got done, and we were kind of celebrating that win. And I come down and he's getting on the bike to cool down. And I'm like, what are you doing? Get off the bike. We actually have to go have a meal. And so we ended up going back to the hotel and having a team meal at 3:30 in the morning.
Because you got to fuel.
But that's how he's dialed. He's dialed to make sure that his routine is complete, even when the game's over. And it goes back to that word of that dedication, that it's a strong word to use, because not everybody is truly dedicated. You have talent, you have skill, and you come and you play and you run, but to sacrifice a lot, family time, extra hours at the rink, all that extra stuff, injury stuff, to recovery, it takes extra. And it's easy to go home and just like, okay, I just need to get away and relax. I need this day off. They don't. They make sure that they complete everything before they enjoy their day off or their time to relax.
It's a great lesson, because a lot of kids, like a lot of guys will arrive. I mean, you get to the show, you got to be a pretty special talent, right? Like, to begin with, but that's the next level.
For sure. And, I was fortunate enough to get there, and I had no knowledge of that. I just kind of played and worked hard and did my whatever I could do to be at my best, and had zero knowledge of what guys have now. And to learn that, and it's pretty incredible. And I think that it's a big stepping stone. The things that Lou's passed on to a lot of the guys that were his partners, that's seen him prepare, and Thomas and Jose, and also, like the way Bob reflects to Spencer. And it's important that the young guys see that and understand that there is a difference.
Fine line, though. You mentioned it can be exhausting. And avoid the superstitions, because we've seen guys that, and we're guilty of it at InGoal. We're always like picking these guys' brains for new little things. Well, if you were to read every article and add everything, you'd have a 6-hour routine, right? Like, do you really need to narrow it down? Is that part of the process as well?
Well, for sure. I mean, I think as you get older, you start to realize, your skill level, and you start to trust yourself more too. And I think the trust is the big factor, that once you start trusting that, having a cup of coffee at 4 o'clock isn't the result of a win or a loss, but making sure that you're just getting your body and mind in the right spot. And I think that the trust is a big thing. It's easy. As coaches, we do it. I use the black pen through the entire playoffs. And if I lost the black pen, oh no, what's going to happen? It's not changing the outcome of the game. So, you got to make sure that you just trust what you do. You trust your ability, and, you just continue to build your game correctly. I think sometimes in situations, you don't want to add too much to it, or you don't want to self-correct right away. Just because you made a mistake or had a couple bad games, you don't want to flip everything upside down and be like, okay, what's going on? I think that's the worst thing to do. Sometimes to simplify, get back to your structure, get back to your foundation, and keep it simple, and then build from there. And I think that it's important that these guys trust that. They know when things aren't going right, and they know that they have to sometimes back off of things to get back on track. And
chasing change for the sake of change is never a good thing.
No, exactly. And it happens though. It happens. We talk, like, our team this year is a little different. Like, we don't give up a ton of shots. So it's hard. Like, you go into a game and you let in 3 goals or 4 goals and 20 saves, and you're kind of looking at it going, well, what would I do different tonight? Like, what would I do different on these saves? So you can't, if you're getting 40 shots and you're in the game and you're feeling it, and then you're like, okay, you have a better feel for things. When you don't, and you have a lot less shots and you're giving up goals, that's when you start to question, like, what do I do now? Once you start squeezing it, now all of a sudden, now you start over challenging. Now you start chasing the puck or dropping early, and that you don't want those habits to creep in your game. So sometimes we are a subject to the game that's played in front of us, to our team, and in whatever's happening in front of us, those are the adjustments that we got to make throughout the game. Have it be a 40 save night one night, and then the next night you can have 15 saves. So making that adjustment is so important, and being able to control that, where if you start chasing and correcting everything on every night, it's going to be a long season for you.
And I was just saying, last night's a prime example. Like, just some of the craziest bounces I've ever seen. It ends up being 15 on 19, and you're like, there was nothing wrong with his game. It's like, well,
we looked at each other after the game, and I actually looked at Bob last night and just laughed, and that's all you could do. I'd be like, listen, these games happen. They're going to happen where you get a bounce off the boards, you get a tip off your defenseman's stick for the first shot of the game that goes in. Like, what would you do differently? So you wouldn't. So don't overthink this. This is one of those games that we move past, and now we move past it.
I love that. Like viewing it that way, rather than worrying about, 4 on 19, like it's a bad night. What would you do differently on the goals? And if the answer, and it has to be truthful and honest and reflective, but if the answer is nothing, then you've got to find a way to move on.
Yeah, you move past it. I think it's important that on games like that, when it is a night like that, when there isn't a lot of correction and what I could have or should have done, you move past it. And moving past it is your next practice, that you actually have to enjoy your next practice. You can't go out there and then try to be perfect in practice and think about your angles, and then, to have to stop every puck, or like, the minute you start doing that, now you start questioning things. Now, all of a sudden, if guys are scoring in practice, you're going to start, now all of a sudden, negative thoughts will start to creep in, where our next practice, I actually want him to really enjoy his practice to the point where he's having fun coming across, where he's talking to his teammates, where he's just out there really almost practicing subconsciously, where there is no thought. And that's the most important part for me on that day, is just to go out there and play, because there is nothing to really correct about last night's game or even focus on it. We have to move past it, and now we live in today. And so we say we live for today, and that's what we focus on.
The foundation, important to have a foundation that you go back to. You talk about simplifying at times, and sometimes maybe trying to do too much is a bad thing. How do you help young guys identify what that is? Because it's different for different guys. How do you And is it important for young goalies to identify, like, without being stubborn about it, this is what I do when I'm playing well? Is that a good way to look at it?
Yeah, for young guys, that's the challenge, right? Because they just, it's the experience part of it. They haven't gone through the experience part of it. But Bob's played over 700 games. There's an experience part of it. And so I guess that would be my job, is to make sure that the way I communicate is to share that experience and tell them the experience that other goalies have gone through, that it's okay to feel this way. It's okay to want to do that. And it's okay that you should be doing this today. And there's some goalies that have so much structure built into them that, they're so built on practice that sometimes you're like, hey, listen, you got to get out of that comfort zone and just have a practice day with no coaching today, and just go out there and be a goalie and have fun and enjoy your sport. And I find that young guys have a hard time doing that sometimes.
I was going to ask, are we losing that a little bit?
I think so. I do think so, because there's so much structure built in and this and that you can't lose sight of, like, sometimes you just got to react. And, you look at some goalies that have played this game and they are great goalies, and Tim Thomas and Hasek and, guys that just on, pure instinct could stop the puck. And there's a little part of those guys in every structured guy. And you've got to make sure that part of it is still part of you.
It's funny. I was talking with Spencer yesterday about what's changed, like what's changed in the game for these guys. And I guess for a goalie coach, it's probably a different answer, but what do you see? What's the biggest difference? What's made it so much harder for these guys? I know there's so many great offensive players. There's all that element, but Spencer and I were talking about there's very few low danger shots anymore. The ones that you used to rely on, you get 10 a night, they'd help you feel good and into the game. Now you might get 5 or 6.
Well, that's probably the most of it right there. I think that when you look at the players nowadays, they're so good. They're like, you could go back, not too long ago, where you had your first line that was your stars, your second line was a great line, but then you got your checking line, and then you had your top guys. And, so you're really concentrating on 2 sets of lines that put up the most goals. You look at every team now on any given night can do damage to you. And fourth line players are talented. They've got skill. They were top players in their league in junior and college. They can deflect pucks. Some of the best guys in front of the net are fourth line guys. And it's just their role in the NHL. So the high dangered shots that they get when there's opportunities, it's a whole different league. And the quality is so good. And then the pressures of it, the league is so tight, the teams are so good that, like, every game, the value to every game is so important that, there's a lot of pressure. And as the season goes on and you feel that pressure, it draws the excitement and the fun out of it. And I think when you start to lose that, and it just becomes a singular focus of just, playing games, and you start to lose that other side of it, I think that's when you start to get in your ruts a little bit. And you've got to make sure that there is that excitement in a January, in a February. There's always excitement in February, in March, because you can start to smell the playoffs coming around, and it's start of the season. Christmas time is always a nice month to play hockey, and but there is a lull in the season, and you've got to make sure that you don't fall into that. And and then there's patterns for goalies too. There's guys that can play every single night as starters, and they've earned their positioning. And then the young guys that are backups that are kind of playing once a week, that's a tough role, because there's a lot of pressure that on you to, one, to try to win the game first and foremost, but 2, you can't get pulled because you're giving your partner a night off. So there's that pressure of preparing yourself, and sometimes over preparing yourself to play that game. So you got to have that balance.
Sounds like as much as we tend at InGoal to focus on technical and the evolution and how things are always changing, it sounds like really the biggest challenge right now is mental. And you've mentioned fun multiple times. So I'll leave with this one, last one. How do you make sure you guys are having fun? Do you have drills you like to do? Like, how do you keep that in their game when it can become a grind?
You know what? I go back to Mr. C. Okay. He was my grade 8 social studies teacher. Is probably I enjoyed going to that class. Out of all my classes that I went to, it was the one class that I loved. I loved going to. He was a teacher that would give you the answers before the test. You had to learn them and study them. He just made it fun every day coming into class. And it was him. It was the way he approached it. I want the guys every day that they come through the door. My goal is when they see me, they don't feel like it's going to be a grind, that it's going to be a work day, that we're going to work and we're going to have hard days and that. But I want them to be able to see me, put a smile on their face, and enjoy what they're doing. And I want to make sure that I recognize that. I'm a big believer in, in pregame skates when we're out there skating and, we're done after 15 minutes. And there's times and we have an extra hour of ice, right? And there's times to work your guys, and they have to work and they have to stay out there and do some extra guys, and you have extra shooters. But I also believe that, you know what? They need to go have lunch with the rest of the guys. They need to be on the first bus. Just because they're here doesn't mean I have to keep them on the ice and overgrind them or overwork them, because there's an importance for them to have lunch with the guys and sit at that table and laugh and have fun, and not show up an hour later, eat with one or two guys that missed or that ended up walking or taking an Uber back from the practice, from the pregame skate, and almost feel solitude on their own island. So I make sure that I try to create an atmosphere where they come to work every day and they're getting something out of it, but they're enjoying it. They're enjoying the hard, but they're also enjoying their time there. And it's not an easy thing to do, because, you're coming in off a loss. There's a lot of emotions that go up and down, and it's not rah, like, cheering them up every day. It's not that. It's just making sure that that Mr. C's class, when you walk through that door, the mood changes, and you can create that mood with the way you act, with the way you talk, and what you present to them on the ice. There's days to work them hard before practice, and then there's days just to warm them up the right way. There's days after practice to do some drills that are going to be quality drills that reflect the game that they're going to be playing, or maybe some of their, like strengths. I like to focus on their strengths more than their weaknesses, because those are comfort drills. And then there's times to have a fun game at the end of practice, but not all the time, because if you overdo it, then you're drawing it and you're taking some of the stuff away from them. So I think that that's kind of the biggest role that I'll try to play in them, is making sure that they come in every day where they enjoy it. And when you enjoy something, you'll bring your best out.
I love it. I can't say how much we've enjoyed this. I got to let you go. We could probably go for a long time here, but I know you've got other things you got to do today. The enjoyment that you bring, I got to say, walking into that room yesterday and talking to Spencer, who wasn't playing that night, so he had a chance, but it's still a game day. I think it shines through the enjoyment you pass on to them, because the conversation we had was as enjoyable as any I've had walking into a room in a while. So I like to think that's probably a reflection of what you've got going there, because we talked goaltending and we smiled, and it was a back and forth, and one of the best days I've had in a while. So it seems like it's working for you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I take pride in that part of it. From past playing, you go through your experiences, and it's just, I think that it's a hard job. It's a hard job being a goalie, and I don't want to make it any harder. And I think that's my goal. And the guys see that, and I want them to have fun. It's fun watching them have fun. It's fun watching Bob, chirp in practice and come up with highlight saves in practice, not just being structured and making, the save that he should be making, like on a regular basis. Like, have a little fun with it. And that's kind of our theme here. And it, in the last couple of years, it's been working. So we'll try to keep going.
Okay. Well, it was fun talking to you, and it was fun watching you and our old friend Roberto Luongo lift the cup, as well as Bob and everybody else there. So looks great on you, Rob. Thank you so much for taking the time, and for all the support at InGoal over the years. It's meant a lot to me. It's meant a lot to our audience, and we can't thank you enough.
You're fantastic. I appreciate it. Anytime, buddy.
Being able to lean into somebody who's like in the fire, like Rob Tallas is in the National Hockey League, but hear them be so open and honest, not vulnerable, but You know where I'm going with that.
Oh, for sure. You listen to so many interviews.
So neat.
Yeah, you must experience it when you talk to players for a broadcast on television. They're a little bit more guarded. They're a little bit more set and pat in their answers, and you know what's coming quite often. When you get a goaltender or a goalie coach on our podcast where they know they're talking to an audience of goalies, goalie coaches, and goalie parents, they tend to be a little bit more open, and they tend to enjoy talking their craft, and they understand who it is that they're talking to. And they want to help. They want to give back. And Rob, in this case, is no exception.
Fun stuff. Great episode of InGoal Radio, the podcast. Started off with the Igor Shesterkin contract. Got in some great numbers about save percentage. I love the explanation of the challenge in the parent segment. Like that will stick with me. Just how to handle that kind of dilemma, if you want to use that term.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's so important, and probably for me, I think the most important thing I probably didn't underline well enough is it's important to give your kids those skills to deal with them, because I promise they will face this situation again. I promise you can't be there when they're playing higher and higher levels. It was probably Bantam where it became clear that even though I was a coach, the organization my son was playing for wanted things to be not parent involved. And there's a moment you got to step back, and you want to know that your kid is well prepared for having those conversations. I might say, Darren, I didn't actually add this in the parent segment, but goalie camps, as much as I love the one-on-one situation where it's just you and a coach, they're very valuable and they're a good investment. Goalie camps have a different level of importance to your child, I actually believe, because if they're with kids that are like-minded and a similar sort of level or above their level, they get that opportunity to learn from other goaltenders, from other goaltenders' experiences, especially if they're older than them. You get this mentorship relationship set up that I think is so important.
One of my best buddies through life, Damon Kustra, I met at goalie camp way back when.
That's awesome.
Dauphin guy. Went on to play in the Western Hockey League. He was way better than me. But awesome stuff. Played at the CIS level or U Sports now. So
it's awesome.
You're right. You can find like-minded people. Hey, buddy, great job. Thanks for fitting us into your schedule and joining us late.
You too. Thank you.
You could have taken a pass and you didn't.
Well, you're the only one who's actually survived the entire episode.
Yeah, because Woody had to run to practice. Balancing out NHL.com and InGoal Radio. So we find a way to make it work, and so will you on InGoal Radio, the podcast. Happy goaltending, and we'll talk to you next week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.